Married Redditors, how was your spouse different from any of your exes when you were dating? How did you know they were it? Serious. I never got sick of being around her. 16 years and I haven't yet. I can remember dating other women and just wishing I could be anywhere else. I didn't have to try coming up with things to talk about. I didn't pretend like I was really cool. I wasn't shy about my honest opinion. I was able to be fully myself with this person. And it was so easy. I also felt no social energy being drained from hanging out with him. And still don't. Both of us just knew. Still better than ever 8 years later. Edit. It makes me so happy to see all these responses from everyone in love. It really makes my day. When your biggest relationship worry is that the snoring has always pushed others away. But she said on the first night, your snoring is like a comfort blanket to me. I slept like a baby knowing you were there with me. I can always assume that she means the best in everything she says or does. It's been over 10 years and she hasn't let me down yet. I swear she doesn't have a malicious bone in her body. My father passed away very unexpectedly and we had been dating for only 6 months at the time. He flew across country to be with me and my family, whom he hadn't met yet. Bought meals for us. Mowed the lawn. Replaced my sister's worn down tires. Did laundry. Picked up family members from the airport. All the little details that needed attention were the things he took care of so me and my family could grieve. I couldn't imagine anyone else I had dated before doing something like that. She wasn't playing games. She didn't insult or attack me just because she was angry. When she does get upset with me, she is able to communicate with me and doesn't just passive aggressively assume I should know what's wrong. She doesn't purposely try to make me jealous of other guys. Just to see how much I care. She doesn't emotionally manipulate me or treat me like my thoughts and feelings are insignificant. She also didn't expect me to man up and take care of shit. Like a man by working myself to the bone while she stayed at home to do women's work. And I couldn't find a job. She worked harder at hers. And when I found one and she needed a break, I worked harder at my job to afford a vacation for her. No one person should always handle the lion's share. It's about teamwork. She approached our relationship and our life together as something worth working for. Something worth committing to. And something valuable. You don't need gold. You already have it. I knew he was the one when we went away for the weekend together for the first time and I realized I actually enjoyed being with him and didn't want to kill him by the end of the weekend. Only kidding, somewhat. In reality, he loved me for me. The longer we were together the more clear it became. Married 12 years now and counting. I could be completely myself. Felt completely at ease and at home with him and wasn't at all worried about what to talk about and what I needed to do to keep him interested in me. I felt like I was in an equal, healthy, respectful and loving partnership and knew he would always be super loyal, committed and there for me. He made me a mixtape. I listened to nothing else for weeks. 20 years later I still perceive the opening to Operation Mint Crime as a love song. He actually listened to me when I talked. And if we had any sort of disagreements we talk it out. In the almost 8 years together we have never raised our voice or cussed each other out. We've had some major disagreements but we never had a fight, we had a talk. He didn't allow me to do or not do things and accepted me as an individual and I to him. He also liked getting to know my family and friends. All in all he was a partner through and through and I am so happy I have him. He makes the bad times better. My ex did the opposite of all of those things and it took me almost a year to realize that small or large deal breakers are deal breakers and I deserve someone that makes me happy and not ashamed to be myself literally every single day. I didn't have an idea of us that I tried to make us fit into. We pretty much shared and still share a brain. We lived almost 2 hours away from each other but would often text each other the same thing at the same time. We'd be in the car together and one of us would say something and it would be the same thing the other was thinking. I had never had that with anyone. And when we fought we were always able to resolve it easily because our communication and honesty was always really open and easy. I asked my supervisor about this. She looked at me for a moment. Then dipped her head back down with a smile and said, "I thought about it. And there's really no one else I would rather spend my life with. We broke up once and we still found our way back. We were long distance for 2 years and we survived that. He knows me. Like. He really knows me. He's romantic without being provoked. He just wants to treat me right. We just really understand each other." They didn't ask me to change a thing about me. Mine is the opposite. He asked me to change a part of me that needed changing for me to be a happy person. He knew my mental illness was hurting me. And hurting us, and although it was the worst conversation we ever had, it was the best thing anyone has ever done for me. Married 30 years. I'm a 55-year-old male. It was apparent right away that she made me a better person. I had always been a good person and always employed. But being with her made me want to do more. Despite being about 24. She already knew how she wanted to live and that she wanted a family. No lifestyle drama. No drugs. No fighting. No cheating, etc. Our interests are different. But our core beliefs on how kids should be raised and life values are dead on. I'm a car and music guy. She's a baking and domestic girl. We both love cooking. Wine. Maine and Jeeps. I went through a heart transplant 4 years ago and she kept me alive while I lived on an artificial heart for a year and then after transplant. My husband was hurt by something I'd done and told me so. I realized that how I treated people mattered. So many people being afraid to show weakness. I honestly didn't fully realize that my actions had effects on people. And that made me connect with him in a way I hadn't ever connected with anyone else. We've continued learning from each other and being vulnerable and kind. That's the biggest difference. The one that made him the one. He was what I needed to grow up. The stuff. Like enjoying each other's company and sense of humor and working well together and having compatible interests are all there. Too. That and much more. But he made me want to be better. And so I was. And we continue to be awesome together. I never had a serious relationship before him, so it was completely different than anything I knew. I just immediately felt that he was sincere about me and that it was going somewhere. With my husband, I never felt like I had to justify myself. Exes would sometimes look at me funny when I was being silly. Or fuss about stupid little things around the house. My husband likes to discuss things with me instead of standing behind a go. When I'm silly dancing or singing horribly to a song, he joins in. With my husband, I get to be me. She was easy to be around. She never pressured me with expectations or conditions. She never compared me to others or rejected or tried to change any part of me. After 3 years together, it quietly dawned on me that I didn't want to be anywhere else and I wanted to marry her. I waited 6 months before I said that out loud just to make sure I meant it. We've been together 15 years now, and despite life's ups and downs and the fact that nothing and no one is perfect, I'm happier with her all the time. He straight up asked me out, in a polite and non-sleazy way. Knowing nothing about me except that I was polite. Friendly and that he found me attractive. There was none of the ambiguous "let's also hang out" nonsense. I didn't have to guess what his intentions were or worry about sending the wrong signals. It was clear from the very beginning that he was interested in me romantically. And that clarity is what made me give him a shot. If we would get into a fight, she would always apologize afterwards if she felt she had said something out of line. I had never been with anyone with that level of self-awareness and humility. Honestly, it's helped me be a better person from her examples. She's also better looking than all my exes. So that helped. She was genuinely funny. In a sharp, unexpected way that would catch me off guard. Also, spectacular boobs. Was the FRST time she came over to my apartment. After sex, she without asking found a shirt of mine and put it on. Was big on her, but she was comfortable. Looks around my empty home and says this is a blank canvas. Been with her 13 years now. Comma, looks around my empty home and says this is a blank canvas. Looks around my home and says this is a TTY painting. She has been married before. Had 2 kids from that marriage, and the way she handled them and life in general impressed me. And she knew how to cook all my favorite Croatian food. She accepted me as I was, and by the time we got together we were friends already. It didn't take more than 2 months until we looked at each other and said out loud that we wanted to spend our lives together. We got ourselves promise rings then and got engaged around 2 years later. Married another 2 years later and just had our first wedding anniversary. We fight. Sometimes about big stuff. But we hear each other out. Talk about it and don't get angry at each other for having different opinions. We also don't go to sleep angry. We do have a problem in that we both get really hangry and we snarl at each other. But one of us usually recognizes it for what it is, tells the other, and we laugh and get a snack. I met my current fiancé when I was 21 and he was 24. I noticed that he was the first guy I dated who was actually good at communicating and didn't have the emotional depth of a teaspoon. I feel as though a lot of men don't form proper communication skills at a younger age because emotions and talking about how you feel isn't seen as manly. I can't tell you how many times I got into a relatively minor argument in past relationships. And instead of talking the problem and solving it, the guy instead uses avoidance and tries to ignore the situation, which only makes the issue worse. It's a problematic trend. And if we ever have a son, I hope we can pass on those good communication skills to him as well. Break the cycle. We were best friends for 2 years and one day I realized that I never got tired of hanging out with him. She was sane and non-judgmental of me or the life I lived. We found ways to incorporate our 2 lives together instead of one person giving up their identity for the other. We learned how to constructively argue so that coming to a resolution was more important than one of us being right. How did I know she was it? We worked together. One day when she wasn't there, the rest of us were talking about schedules and out of the blue she calls the office to ask about hers. Her phone number came up on the office phone's caller ID and my stomach did a loop. I instinctively and excitedly announced to the office that she was calling right now. Look, it's her number. She's calling now. Everyone just stared at me like I was insane. I knew then that I was done for life. She was it. And I was okay with that. This sounds stupid, but I think it was the first sign for me. We walked at the same pace. In my previous relationships, I always seemed to walk faster than them. So when holding hands and walking, they slowed me down. My spouse and I have an equal gait. That's the only thing left that's equal now. Now she is boss number 1. Sarcasm. Good luck. I don't know where to start. She is just so different from any other woman I have ever met. I had never dated a college professor before. I go over to her house, we watch a movie. I am getting up trying to leave. And she is on the couch spread out and she says, "What do I have to say to convince you that you are getting laid tonight? We got a couple kids now." Honestly, it was just a feeling I had that something was different about her. But I do also recall our first argument and realizing that this was the first girl I had ever dated where instead of immediately wondering if things were going to work out, I was actually eager to work it out so we could go back to having fun. I knew my wife was marryable on our first date. She went hiking with me and a small group of friends. And we spent the entire hike talking to each other. It wasn't but a short time later we'd talked about everything from politics to child rearing to life philosophies. We differ on a lot. But the important stuff we were in lockstep on. This was different from every other relationship he's been in, including a previous marriage, where disagreements were sloughed off as to be decided later, and just stayed an issue without ever getting a resolution. Wife and I have been together since 2013. Married since 2014. Have never fought. Even when we were mad at each other. All because we drudged through every possible issue and topic to make sure we knew each other well enough to have confidence in each other's My wife has some great sass. Is very independent and extremely ambitious. I'm also a huge goof and social butterfly, she isn't, but she never stops me from being who I am. Never. I can go out without her and even take trips to Vegas without the need for constant communication and phone calls. She also made my mother a very thoughtful care package when we found out she had cancer. She is. Without a doubt. She's level-headed and sensible and competent and funny. She doesn't play mind games or make me try to figure out how not to piss her off. And fail. I never have to walk on eggshells. She hasn't caused me any grief in the 22 years I've known her, nor I her. We look forward to hanging out with each other every day. Our favorite memories are of the times we cracked each other up. She wants this to work as much as I do. And she puts all her effort into making that happen. That's how I knew she was it. He was mature yet a kid at heart. Fun to be with. Always up for an adventure. Handy and creative. We liked each other's family. We both wanted kids. A terrific work ethic. No baggage or issues to speak of. The timing in both of our lives was right. All the pieces fell together. Lots of things. But the one that I've been able to note through the years is her self-respect, which consequently leads me to respect her as well. Which is crucial during those certain moments in a relationship. In the past with exes I was quite emotionally abusive. I realized. As I'd make my GFS feel guilty over nothing. Hang things over their heads. Etc. And it took me until I met my wife and she stood up for herself that I realized. OMG. I was an asshole. I only realized I had strategies when they weren't working. What's more is because she respects herself. She has the capacity to draw the best out of others. She constantly waters my good side and lets the dysfunctional side of me starve. Thanks to her insights and general belief in me, I feel that I've become a dependable man. Still got some ways to go. But we've been friends since 2001. Dating since 2009. And married since 2014. When we were first dating I went over to her place. We had sex. Smoked a joint then fell asleep. We both woke up around 2 AM and she brought me leftover chicken and fries in bed before we fell asleep again. I knew she was the one that point. Happily married for 5 years now. On our second date. We were in his bed and having a good time. It was late night. We were talking like we'd known each other for years. Even though we had only just met for the first time a few days prior. All of a sudden he mentioned that he had a wild urge to fart. I said, "Fire away." He farted like there was no tomorrow. I laughed so hard and a few seconds later let out my own gassy adventure. From that moment I knew. If both of us can be that relaxed and comfortable around each other, it must be it. She demanded respect from me. She wouldn't tolerate any games or non-commitment because she knew she was worth it. She did not put up with my bullshit. I fell in line. And I fell in love.